keeping you company this Ramadan.
Well, the time is just gone 5 p.m. on this, the 8th of Ramadan, and we continue with the Iftar Drive and heading to the segment which is going to be the medical segment and also humanitarian hour and the Nasiha that will take us through right until the time of Iftar out here in Johannesburg. But now we are going to be focusing on health during Ramadan and we are talking about diabetes and the impact of diabetes, and also more importantly, looking at creating awareness and what people should generally know about diabetes and Ramadan, and what are some of the guidelines that they need to follow, what they need to consider is what I'm thinking about. And we are going now to be joined by a voice from the past, a blast from the past, Dr. Mohamed Moti, who is a general practitioner. Dr. Mohamed Moti, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, and just wonderful connecting with you once again after a long, long time.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's like I mentioned, it's nice to be back on Salam Media.
Yes, Doc, we are talking about Ramadan, and people obviously need to take care of their health during the month of Ramadan. And we know about diabetes. Diabetes is a very, very common problem amongst certain sections of society. And we find that this discussion always comes up during the month of Ramadan in terms of diabetes. What are the risks associated with fasting, the type of diabetes that they have. So there are a number of considerations. And if you could just take us through this condition of diabetes, what does it do to people, who have this condition?
Well, as I'm sure you say it very well. It's something that affects. I'm sure each and every one of the listeners today knows someone who has got some form of diabetes. It is very prevalent in South Africa and the world. Basically, very briefly, diabetes is the body's inability or reduced ability to deal with the sugars that enter it. So previously, we used to categorize them as type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Now we've moved away from that, and we refer them to insulin dependent and non-insulin dependent diabetes. But the type 1 and type 2, most people are familiar with. Generally, the type 1 diabetes is a diabetes that you are born with or that develops early on in life. And there, your body is unable to process sugar at all because of a lack of insulin. And most of type 1 patients require insulin therapy from a young age. Type 2 is what is a lot more common. And what that is often as a result of lifestyle choices, perhaps some genetic predispositions where the insulin in our body is not able to work as effectively as previously. And so this tends to occur later in life. However, we are seeing it more commonly in younger people, teenagers, even some children who are overweight. And this doesn't require insulin therapy from the get-go, but rather medications such as metformin or glucophage, which are very well known, that increases the sensitivity of the insulin in your body that exists, thereby improving the effect of the faulty insulin in your body.
Yes. Now, Doc, just looking at fasting, and it is clear that it is not meant to create excessive hardship on people who fast. And at the same time, when one looks at patients with diabetes, a number of them would still insist on fasting during the month of Ramadan, somewhat creating a medical challenge for themselves, but also at the same time, looking at managing their diabetes while they are in this state of fasting.
Definitely. And it's becoming more and more common that people, you know, many Muslims, they want to partake in the month of Ramadan. It's a spiritually uplifting month for us. It's a very special month for all of us. And a lot of people feel that it's not the same if they are not fasting, or they're not reaping as much benefit from the month if they don't fast. And so, even though, like you mentioned, fasting is not meant to be difficult for anyone, not supposed to be a burden on anyone. And, people with health restrictions like diabetes are excused from fasting. Some people who feel that they can still want to. And that's perfectly fine, because things have changed, research has been done over the years, and it's fair and valid that some people who are able to fast despite having diabetes should get all the necessary support and advice um, that's available, so that they can have a safe Ramadan and enjoy all of the benefits. One of the
Yes.
things, though, the first thing I'd say is that you need to speak to your doctor about it and have an open and candid discussion. Some doctors are straight up, if you have diabetes, don't fast. That's it. And a lot of patients, we see that despite having that, they they still want to, and so they still try, and sometimes they put themselves in harm's way. So you need to have a frank and open discussion with your doctor saying, listen, I want to fast despite this diagnosis. Is it possible? How can I go about doing it? And there are a number of steps that we can take, engaging with the patient and making sure that they understand the risks, and we are managing and making the necessary adjustments to the best of our ability.
Yes.
The
Also,
first,
Doc, I think
yeah,
what is when one looks at people with diabetes, and when one just looks at the diabetes problem generally, and particularly when it comes to the month of Ramadan, and I'm certain that over the years, a lot more information is available, a lot more research must have is being done, and scientifically as well, to provide that necessary information, to provide the necessary guidance to people like yourselves, to medical people, and also to patients who are suffering with diabetes so that they can make the right decisions.
yes, definitely there is. There's been a lot of research being done. There's a lot of advancements with regards to the type of medications that we're giving, and a better understanding. There's actually a fantastic resource. I'll share an online resource. It's daralliance.org, which all patients and practitioners can access, which is a phenomenal online resource for everyone with diabetes or trying to manage diabetes in Ramadan. I'll go through a few steps, but most of this information can be found on this website. And there are certain areas where it's specific to South Africa, and um, touches on specific dietary, you know, traditions, I suppose, that we are familiar with during Ramadan. So that is daralliance.org. The first thing
Mm,
that we need to do when a patient comes to us, and this can generally be done before Ramadan, but if you haven't done it, it is still Ramadan now already, but it's worthwhile going through the motion, is to see the risk stratification, or risk quantification of each individual patient. And so you need to be able to go through a number of different things. And on this DIR Alliance website, there is a whole risk stratification tool exists. And it asks things that you can go through yourself or with your doctor. The type of diabetes that you have, how long you've had diabetes for, the type of treatments you are on. If you are a diabetic patient, you are generally aware of HbA1c levels. Depending on your HbA1c level, you get a specific score. If you have any other comorbidities or illnesses, and it even asks things like how strenuous the work that you do on a day-to-day basis is. And it's available to everyone all over the world. And so that's why there's also questions regarding how long your average fast is going to be. Once you go through that, those questions, you'll come out with a number. And we then categorize you based on the score that you get. So if your score is 0 to 3, you are considered a low risk. If it's 3 to 6, you're considered a moderate risk. And if it's above 6, then you are considered a high risk. People who are low risk, generally, it is usually probably safe to fast. If you are moderate risk, we're not sure, and you should be a little bit more cautious. And if you are high risk, then generally you shouldn't be fasting. All of the categories will require medical changes and a few adjustments for the month.
In fact, I'm just, as you spoke, I actually went onto this website, and as you mentioned, correctly pointed, it's extremely useful. In fact, I think it's quite detailed as well and covers a lot of ground. And I suppose, all questions relating to Ramadan, relating to fasting and diabetes are actually covered. And it's just a wealth of information that people can actually get on this DAR Alliance a resource. And then Doc, what I'm going to do is we're going to go for a break. I've just been informed that we need to go for a quick ad break. We're going to put you on hold, and we'll be back.
Perfect.
Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
The month of mercy and endless blessings. The month of sharing the love, care, and spreading hope. This Ramadan, you can make it count by supporting one of the many projects by Penny Appeal South Africa. Donate your zakah, lila, fidya, kafara, and fitra safely and securely, knowing that your support goes to those most in need. Give hope. Make every minute count. May all your efforts and intentions be accepted. Penny Appeal, serving humanity, transforming lives.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
Southern Africa Dawah Network is a non-profit organization striving to uplift the disadvantaged and empowering through education and dawah. Donate to the SADN centers, the M.A. Motala Islamic Center, as well as our Islamic centers in Moti, Mtulumi, Botshabelo, and Castile. Donate your zakat and millah today. Contact Farooq Sheikh 076-321-0650, Yusuf Mohammedi 072-259-3457, or the SADN head office 031-304-8000. Our account, Standard Bank, account number 050-856-294 for your zakat, or 050-879-790 for your lillah. Dawah through education, education through dawah, the Southern Africa Dawah Network.
For a long time, we've lived in a centralized world where institutions held the all-important data and confirmed all transactions. Those times are over. Welcome to Libertas Group, a blockchain development company boasting an ecosystem that continually redefines the way we do business. Our blockchain is decentralized, making it immune to hacking or alteration, putting the power back in your hands with no middleman so you can focus on the growth of your business. Libertas, the simplest investment choice you'll make.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
Well, the time is just gone 5:15 p.m. as we continue with the broadcast this afternoon right here on Salam Media on Iftar Drive. And this is the medical feature. And we are talking about diabetes and fasting in this month of Ramadan. And we have got Dr. Mohamed with us this afternoon. Dr. Mohamed Moti, just to continue and looking at people who want to fast in the month of Ramadan. And, you mentioned that obviously they need to assess themselves. They need to make sure that, they are not at high risk before they embark on fasting. But the whole question surrounding diet and fasting and people who are diabetic, especially those who are fasting, things like, the meal at suhoor, the meal at iftar. Are there any specific dietary needs for them, or should they be focusing on just certain types of foods?
Definitely. So, if you don't mind, before we go on to the actual dietary specifics, I would say that the most important thing that someone who is a diabetic that's fasting needs to be able to do is they need to be able to monitor their sugar levels whilst they are fasting. And the reason for this is that there are certain criteria where or at certain times where we would really want them to break their fast. And so this does sometimes become a challenge. If a diabetic has a permanent sugar monitor on themselves, there are many on the market, it makes things a lot easier. But otherwise, if a patient is not feeling well or feels strange at any stage during the actual fast, they need to be able to check their sugar. This is extremely important, because if their sugar is less than 4, then they need to break their fast. And if their sugar is above 16, they should also then break their fast. And many people think that, if their sugar is high, that shouldn't necessarily be a problem because, they're not eating or anything like that. So a high sugar isn't a big issue. But the problem is when you aren't eating and your sugar is going up, that means that you are getting very dehydrated. And of course, all diabetics will know that a very high sugar level can lead to a lot of problems. So that's, before we speak about meals, that's one of the key components of fasting as a diabetic. Please make sure that you are able to monitor your sugar level. And if your sugar level drops below 4 or goes above 16, you should definitely break your fast. Now, going on to your question regarding specific meals or what they should be eating. So, a lot of people, we generally tend to break our fast with dates. And now, when it comes to breaking your fast with dates, it's a sunnat, it's a wonderful act. What we would say, first of all, is as a diabetic, don't break your fast with an excessive number of dates. Stay to between 1 and 3 dates should be sufficient. Your meals should not consist of a lot of fried savories, anything that's deep fried, which is very common. And we should also remember to try and stay away from very sugary drinks or very sweet desserts. These are all things that, culturally come into play during Ramadan. We go for iftar, break our fast with a lot of unhealthy savories, have a lot of sweet drinks and desserts. And so the important thing is that diabetics need to maintain a healthy, balanced diet that has sufficient levels of proteins, vegetables, and a little bit of healthy fats in it as well. And so that is to sustain them during the entire day. The important thing, especially with the suhoor, is to make sure that there's a sufficient amount of protein and healthy fats that are able to sustain your sugar level throughout the day. Again, on the Dar Alliance website, there are specific guidelines that people can follow. There's even a mock plate of what people can look at, of what, for example, they could include in their iftar and suhoor plates. So avoid sugary desserts, fried and unhealthy savories, and also remember to have your suhoor as late as possible.
Doc,
And so
just what, yes, the suhoor as late as possible is a very good thing, but should they be checking their sugar level at suhoor as well?
Yeah, definitely they can check their sugar levels at suhoor. So basically, you must remember one of the things is that people are going to be also adjusting the time that they take their medication. So generally, between iftar and suhoor is when their medication is going to be taken during the month of Ramadan. And they can check their sugar levels. Again, every person is going to be completely, the management is going to be quite specific to them. And so what is appropriate for one person may not be necessary for another person. So that also needs to be something that's discussed with your doctor and specific to a patient.
Right. Doc, I just want to just move on and just looking at some of the conditions that people may experience while they are fasting. Now we know that it's normal for people to be thirsty, to be hungry, to feel tired. Sometimes people feel a bit disorientated. They feel a bit confused, and those type of things. And how does one actually know that what? This is now a situation that is developing where I need to break my fast, or because as a result of my diabetes, this is becoming now risky, and I should be ending my fast because some of these conditions, I mean, normal people, people without diabetes, also experience like this hunger, fatigue, and those things.
So the only way to know is to test your sugar. A lot of diabetic patients are familiar with if they've had hyper or hypoglycemic attacks previously, they can sort of sometimes tell whether or not this is a diabetes related symptom. But like you say, when you're fasting, it's not uncommon to be a bit thirsty or to feel a little bit hungry. Maybe you may have a few palpitations. And so the best way, and why it is so important that diabetics who are fasting have access to sugar testing, is that they need to be able to test their sugar if they feel anything out of the ordinary.
Well, Doc, I'm not too sure, if I've covered everything. Is there anything else that you wish to add before we take leave of you?
I think we've covered on a very briefly, we've covered most things, but just to remember to have this candid conversation with your doctor, to go through, to make sure that you know your risk stratification, your risk score, have access to checking your blood glucose levels. As we spoke about, making sure that you're taking insufficient and correct nutrients. And the one thing that we didn't touch on will be the adjustments based on your medication, which are based on, which will be varying from patient to patient. So that's the last thing that I'd say that you must discuss with your doctors is how and when to take your medication.
Well, Doc, Jazakallah for that. And once again, it's been wonderful connecting with you after such a long time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we thank you for your time. We do appreciate you taking time out. And we wish you well. Allah accept, Allah reward your efforts as well, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That was Dr. Mohamed Moti with us this afternoon, and it was a health segment that we had this afternoon, linking diabetes and for those who are fasting in the month of Ramadan, and the people, the considerations that people who are having this condition of diabetes, some of the issues that they need to take into account, the considerations, but also looking at other very, very important information you need to be equipped with that information, and this is the reason why you've got your doctors. But also read up. There are plenty of resources that are available. There are plenty of guidelines, and also at the same time, making absolutely sure that you take care of your health, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not burden anyone with more than what that person can actually bear. And especially when we are talking about people with diabetes. I know they want to fast. It is a great month. It is a noble month. It is a month that is extremely rewarding. And sometimes, we always say that the more difficulties you experience, the greater the reward. And that seems to be the common sentiment that is being expressed as well. But again, the Quran is clear, the message is clear that at the end of the day, if you are in that situation where you are going to endanger yourself, then you need to tread with caution. And this is the reason why Islam is not a difficult religion to follow, where everything is cast in stone. There is leeway, and particularly when it comes to this month of Ramadan, when it comes to people who can fast, and for those for medical reasons who cannot fast at all the time. It's just gone 5:26. We're going to go for a break. We come back and we're going to focus on the humanitarian hour.